This is an iffy topic without a doubt. Lootboxes, DLC, and microtransactions are hated by lots and lots of people. Rightfully so. Lots and lots of games abuse people to get more money off of them. And many people might say Nintendo wants to steer clear of even the mention of the word controversy. But in the title, I mentioned DLC, which Nintendo recently have been a big fan of, with games like Mario, Splatoon, Breath of the Wild, and of course Smash. All of which having some sort of DLC. And even more interesting, back in 2011, Reggie stated in a response to a question about DLC in Nintendo games, "I've had this conversation with a number of key developers, and their mentality is, Reggie, when we sell a game, we want the consumer to feel that they've had a complete experience." Which, fair enough, that's a decent reason not to want to implement DLC. But why the change of heart? Well, they really didn't change their opinion all that much. In that same interview, Reggie said, "Now, in addition, if we want to make other things available, great, and we'll look at that. But we're unwilling to sell a piece of game upfront and, if you will, force a consumer to buy more later." That's what they don't want to do, and I completely agree. I think the consumer wants to get, for their money, a complete experience. And then we have opportunities to provide more on top of that. So for Nintendo published DLC, when asked, it stated every time that everything we get as DLC was being developed after the game's release. So since everything is made after release, the line where Reggie said, "When we sell a game, we want the consumer to feel like they had a full experience," lines up. They're not selling incomplete games, they're just adding on to the already finished game, which is how I personally feel DLC should be handled. But let's take a look at some other games and their DLC systems and see what does and does not line up with Nintendo's philosophy. Let's start with an example on how not to do DLC. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Infamous for being, bad. Well, the gameplay itself is kind of fun, but oh boy, the system they use for loot boxes. It's pretty bad. They had a system where you could play as popular characters like Yoda, Luke, and Boba Fett, but it was almost impossible to get well-known heroes or villains with the system. For example, to get Vader, it was estimated you had to grind 48 hours. And with it being almost impossible to unlock people like Darth Vader, players had to try their luck on the loot box systems, which were broken on their own. Each loot box gave you a chance to get perk cards, which if you got the right ones gave you an instant edge over those who don't. And if you got duplicates, you could get credits, which also allowed you to buy heroes, basically forcing you to buy loot boxes if you wanted to get the full experience. This A, forces consumers to buy things outside the base game to enjoy playing it, and B, makes actual in-game progression meaningless. And so, I rate this game 5 money signs out of 5. Overwatch is interesting in that it still has the loot box system where you have to buy a box for a random chance at getting something either really rare or really common. But the thing is, it's purely cosmetic and all the characters are available to you from when you buy the game. Also, they are constantly updating the game with more maps and new heroes, all for free. And if you play the game enough, the cosmetic items aren't really a problem, since most of the time you can buy anything you really want after playing for only a couple hours. The only time I see this system as a problem is when seasonal events happen. Most of the time, if you want to get everything, you have to either save up a whole bunch of coins that you get when you open a duplicate in a box, or you spend money. It's kind of shady, but the game itself is relatively cheap, and this isn't the worst way you could go about doing it. League of Legends is very similar to Overwatch and Battlefront, in where they have these boxes/capsules that give you cosmetic items, but they can also give you characters, which may be better than others, depending on the meta and whatnot, which is almost straight up what Battlefront 2 did. So why isn't this game getting the same amount of backlash? Well, the answer is simple. It's free. Battlefront 2 was a $60 game, and when you pay for a game beforehand, you're expecting a full experience. When you just download a game for free, you're not really expecting that. Also, League really doesn't have a pay-to-win system, unless you play extremely competitively. But at that point, you're unlocking everything you need naturally through the in-game progression system. And having a meaningful progression system is something else it has over Battlefront 2. I rate this free-to-play out of 5. Let's take a look at Smash 4. they release new fighters and new stages either individually or in a pack. So for example, I could buy DLC Pack 2 and get Lucas, Roy, and Ryu and the new stage all together for a discounted price. Or I could only buy Ryu for like $12 or something. An interesting model that could be returning. It doesn't take away from any form of in-game progression they might want to put in, and it's a good way to keep the content flowing. So these are all very interesting ways about going through the whole idea of DLC or microtransactions. But in what way can Nintendo incorporate this into Ultimate? Or should they even do it? I think one thing specifically Nintendo will not incorporate are microtransactions. There won't be a shop where you can pay to get credits to get specific characters or costumes. Like Reggie said, they don't want the player base to feel forced to pay more after buying a full price game. But something I can see happening with the loot box system is using the coins from Smash 4, you know, the ones that were basically useless. Using those coins to get in-game loot boxes that unlock costumes like a Metal Mario alternative skin. Or if Nintendo wanted to charge for some of these items, they could treat them like Mii alternative skins. So you could buy the Metal Pack, which gave you a metal alternative costume for Mario, Peach, and Sonic. If they were to implement any sort of loot box type system, I think it would be in-game only. And if they wanted to implement more costumes, it'd probably be either through the DLC or the in-game loot box system like I said. I don't think having purchasable microtransactions is something Nintendo really wants to do, but who knows. I'm really interested on everyone's opinion on this video. If you have any sort of microtransaction or DLC systems that you really dislike or enjoy, leave it in the comments. Also, if you're watching this video within the first couple of hours of it's posted, I'm currently streaming, so check out the link in the description or the pinned comment and say hi. If there's no pinned comment, I'm no longer streaming, but I'll be streaming every single day from 6 to 8, unless I post something saying otherwise. See you guys next week then.